السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, thank you so much for having me today. It's my blessing and privilege to be here before you. All that is good in what I say is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I thank and praise Him for it. Any mistakes are my own, and I seek His refuge and forgiveness for them. If there's any issues with audio or muffling with the mask or anything, just let me know. If any of the sisters in particular can raise your hands if there's any problems, then let me know that I should take it off. Okay. Is that better? Everybody can hear me a little bit more clearly? Yes. All right, well, we'll balance it out then. I'm vaccinated, so. Brothers and sisters, we all know the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and the idols delivered in the Quran. The father of Ibrahim alayhi salam was an idol maker, the chief in the village, and in the village in which he resided. And he, one day, as Ibrahim became older and grew into intelligence and grew into intellect, he became disgusted with the practice over time. And so he confronted the villagers about it. He said, "Why do you worship this of clay and stone? Why do you engage in this kind of immoral behavior?" And they rebuked him and cast him aside. And so one evening he came with an axe and smashed all of the idols save one, the largest one, and he placed the axe by him. Now come the morning, the villagers come, they gather, they see that these idols whom they had been worshiping, asking for everything from rain to prosperity to money to children and great benefit for themselves, had been smashed, all except this largest one. And so they thought, obviously, well, let's go and talk to the guy who's been talking about how much he hates the idols. So they bring Ibrahim in front and they ask him, "Did you do this? What do you know about this?" And he said, "Why don't you ask this biggest one here?" He has the axe. It's sitting right in front of him, of course. And they say, "Well, that's ridiculous. Obviously, he can't tell us what happened. He can't even speak." And he said, "Then why would you worship that? Why do you ask that help for support, for sustenance, for guidance, for everything in your lives, which cannot speak or even defend itself?" Now, brothers and sisters, remember the audience here to whom these words were spoken and revealed. These were the tribes of Mecca, who simultaneously traced their descendants, or traced their lineage from that of Ibrahim alayhi salam and took great pride in this. And on the other hand, had gone back to worshiping the same idols, gone back to asking them for rain, for water, for life and livelihood. And so the hypocrisy here was manifest that was being pointed out. The Prophet ﷺ was positioning himself in the same role of a light shining in the darkness that he was echoing from all those years ago. So the lessons here are some way straightforward. We're not supposed to worship idols of clay and stone. But there's so much more that is packed into these. The dedication of Ibrahim alayhi salam to Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is manifest in these ayat, not simply in the worship of the clay and stone, but in the worship of all else in our lives. He chose not to worship the lineage from which he found himself, from which he had taken himself. Ibrahim alayhi salam could have very easily followed the path of least resistance, which we all know. We all know how easy it is to go down the path of our parents, our families behind us, and look and position ourselves as simply one more in an unbroken chain of people doing the same thing throughout history. And history is riddled with examples of people who are just the 7th generation blacksmith, the 7th generation baker. And they go on and there are 20 more after them. But Ibrahim alayhi salam refused to follow that path of least resistance. He refused to simply allow himself to be yet another idolater, yet another person who turned away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once that truth was revealed to him and came upon him with clarity. Abu Hurairah narrates a hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whosoever is slowed by his deeds cannot be hastened by his lineage. Whosoever is slowed by his deeds cannot be hastened by his lineage. And we find no truer example of that from the Quran and the Sunnah that I described in the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Simultaneously, these ayat reveal to us the need to turn away from the good opinion of society or public opinion when those things are detrimental to our own growth and development in Islam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was willing to risk that which so many of us hold truer than life itself, which is the opinion of others and the good esteem of those around us. To be able to have someone say, yes, mashallah, you're doing great. This is exactly right. That's exactly what you should be doing. But he was willing to be rejected roundly. How many of us, when surrounded by a group of the people with whom we grew up, who we've known all our lives, who are telling us, why would you turn away from this? Why would you do this thing? Would stand strong in our own convictions. It's very rare, I can tell you, in history, extraordinarily rare. And the courage and the wisdom and the upholding of that deen and of that tawheed is manifest here in a profound way. Brothers and sisters, then we have, in relation to this, I would argue, another set of ayat related to Ibrahim alayhi salam. That he was out one evening looking up at the sun, or looking up into the sky, and he saw the stars, and he said, "This is my Lord. Qala hadha Rabbi. This is my Lord. This is my cherisher, sustainer." But when it said, he said, "I love not that which passes." And then he saw the moon rise, and he said, "Qala hadha Rabbi. This is my Lord." But when it passed, he said, "Unless my Lord guides me, I will surely be among those who are gone astray." So then he waits and he sees the sun rise, and he says, "Qala hadha Rabbi. This is my Lord. This is greater." But when it said, he said, "O my people, I am free of what you associate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And for anyone who's familiar with the terms Rabb in this of Qala hadha Rabbi, which is a refrain repeated over and over and over, this is one who nourishes us, sustains us, brings us up. This is someone who is guiding us and teaching us. So what he's looking for here is, what is my guide? What is my North Star? What is that from which I'm taking my vision? What is that from which I am basing my moral compass, my mental energy, the direction of my life? What is going to raise and sustain me and bring me up to a higher state? And he's casting around looking for what is going to be next for him. And yet each one of these things that he sees come and go as ayat, as signs for him, prove that they are just passing through. And to really understand the impact of this from the perspective of the people to whom these ayat were first revealed, you have to recognize that during this time, this was when no one in the world yet fully understood the Earth's revolution around the sun, the moon's revolution around the Earth, their position within the wider cosmos. This was 1,000 years before the invention of the microscope, 800 years before the invention of the telescope. This was before it was firmly understood what Earth was made out of, what the sun was made out of, what all of these components acted in conjunction and coordination to produce. Rather, what people hearing this would know is, well, when I go out at night and I'm worried I'm going to fall, the moon is providing me with light. During the day, if there's not enough sun, our plants die and we risk starvation. When I'm following a journey during the nighttime and I'm trying to get from where I want to go, and I'm worried that if I'm following this pathway, I only know one way to get between these two villages. If I follow this pathway, I can pick the North Star and it will tell me which way to go. And if I go off of that path, then I don't know where I'll go. I'll get lost and I might die. Sirat al-Mustaqim is a very theoretical, philosophical concept to us, but not toward the initial people to whom it was revealed. It was rather an imperative part of a life process, which was dependent on what is directly in front of us. And so rather than being reliant on that, the profundity of this message, as it was brought down to Ibrahim alayhi salam, was that none of these things are the critical element. that no, we cannot rely on that which we have seen our whole lives, that which is in front of us for direction, that which is in front of us for guidance, that which is in front of us for sustenance. Rather, Ibrahim's profound leap of faith was that he said, I will turn to that which I cannot see, that which is not in front of me, that which I can't feel. I'll draw my warmth from that which I cannot touch. I'll draw my guidance from that which I cannot see. And I will listen to that which I cannot hear. And that is the place from which I will draw guidance and truth. And that is the role of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the framework that Ibrahim's setting out here. So it's a profound message and a profound moment of his life, and one that I hope that we can all relate to. As we are choosing where our lives will be directed, as we are choosing what will be our North Star, as we are choosing whether we will follow that which we can grab and touch and cling to and hoard up, or that which we cannot ever hope to touch ourselves, I hope that we will meditate and reflect on this more fully, and I'm going to talk about that more in the second half, inshallah. أقول لك هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited these ayat to the people of Mecca, they all knew that they were not directed simply at people thousands of years ago. They all recognized immediately that they were speaking toward them, the situation in which they found themselves, that they had gone back to this idol worship, that they had reverted to look for sources of guidance and truth and direction in that which they could see and touch, but would ultimately be passing, that which would ultimately pass away. They recognized their hypocrisy was being put on display. In the same way, brothers and sisters, when we hear those verses ayat today, they are directed no less to us than they were to people 1,400 years ago. They speak no less to our ears than they did to the ears who first heard the words off those blessed lips. Today, probably, inshallah, none of us have clay and stone idols in our closets. None of us are worshiping and asking, will we have rain tomorrow for our crops to grow? Our idols, brothers and sisters, are much more insidious because they are invisible too. Because they are the wealth and the fame that we would hoard up ourselves. Because they are the material possessions that compete for the attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they are the promotion at work that we're willing to sacrifice time with family, that we're willing to sacrifice our ethics to achieve, because it gives us a greater title and a sense of self-worth. They are when we wake up first thing in the morning, and instead of thinking, how can I direct my actions today towards serving others and in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is, how can I increase my bank account tonight? How can I, between the beginning of this day and the end, increase my reputation? It's instead of looking for a partner for a young person based on their deen, based on their fidelity to Islam, it's when we say, do they fit the right racial category? Are they from the right family? Do they have the right educational background? When those questions become the first things that we look for, brothers and sisters, instead of just a part of an overall equation, or instead of subsidiary and subservient to the question of how can I elevate my deen today, which is the only question we should ask when we wake up in the mornings each day, then they become things that compete for the attention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though they are no more lasting than the setting sun. And so I ask that each of us reorient ourselves, that we do an inventory, a self-inventory, and say, what are those things that are competing with my attention for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What are those elements that I'm asking myself each day, or that are approaching each day and saying, pay more attention to me, focus more on me than you do on your own development in the deen, on your own growth, on your own ideas about what it means to be a Muslim and submit truly to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the things, brothers and sisters, that are clouding our judgment, that because they are invisible, we do not see with the naked eye. Those idols that we cannot smash with a hammer, but we have smashed with our minds and with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the elements on which I would encourage each one of us to focus each day. Brothers and sisters, there's so much more that we can talk about with these ayat, but given limited time, I want to focus on a couple of things as well. I want to focus, brothers and sisters, on one piece of news personally that I have, which is, many of you know me as the director of Care Massachusetts here, and I've been truly grateful to have that role for the last 6.5 years, serving this community, and in particular the Wayland community, with whom we've had a special partnership and relationship. I announced publicly a few weeks ago that I'll be transitioning out of that role in the coming few months, and I wanted to make sure that Wayland was my first stop to be able to announce to the community more widely my gratitude, my deep appreciation for how much this community has given me. I have seen here a group of people that when I have asked them for something as simple as helping load my car, I've had more people than I've needed to do that because we had more hands for volunteer. volunteering. I've seen groups of people who have sacrificed from incredibly busy schedules to serve this masjid in volunteer capacities as board members or as tutors or working with the Islamic schools. I've seen people who have driven their children here 45 minutes each way because they believe in the kind of messaging that this masjid provides. I've seen people who have enormous ability to give who have given a great deal. I've seen people who have practically nothing to give who have given an incredible amount as well to support this masjid. And I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a special reward for each person who gives to build up a community, who gives to support that community, and who gives to make sure our institutions and organizations stand strong for our youth today and tomorrow. Brothers and sisters, the children of Ibrahim have populated the world with believers. And they have been the descendants from which we all draw ourselves. In the same way, I hope that we will each focus on our own children moving forward and focus on making this masjid a welcome place for them and focus on making our ummah here in Massachusetts a welcome place for them. So back to my message. So I, inshallah, be transitioning out in the next few months, but I want to just remind everybody that, until then, I'm still your representative for CARE, and I'm still here to make sure that everyone in the community is aware that CARE is the organization that is defending our rights as Muslims in this country, that we are the leading civil rights organization, making sure that no one has to be afraid to travel at the airport because they worry about 6 or 8 hour delays, but the CARE will be there to support you if you do. That no one has to be afraid of your children being bullied or harassed at school, as 60% of Muslim children are in public schools in Massachusetts, according to our released report. And that if you do, that CARE is there as a resource for you and your children and your families moving forward. That no one has to be afraid that you will be fired from work because you want to pray, because you want to take prayer breaks, or fast during Ramadan, or wear hijab. That no one has to be afraid that when they invite a friend to come visit them, that they will be pulled over by a cop on the way just for driving while Muslim. That no one has to be afraid in Massachusetts of saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, according to whatever way that makes sense for each one of you. Because you know that you have a strong organization that is community-backed, community-driven, and community-built to support you. And so I've been incredibly blessed to be at the helm of that under incredible leadership, in particular with this community. I still remember 5 years ago, we came to this community, held a special event to raise funds to hire the first civil rights attorney in Massachusetts. And this community rose up and enabled us to do that. And she has since fielded over 1,000 calls for support between herself and her intake staff. That's 1,000 hasanat. 1,000 lips that are speaking your blessings. So I'm incredibly grateful to the Wayland community in particular, which has welcomed me, which has welcomed my family, and which has drawn us all in. And I hope that whoever fills my shoes will be welcomed in the same way, and I'm confident you'll continue to do so. And I also want to just say briefly that we have our annual gala, the final one that I'll be a part of 2 weeks from tomorrow. This is October 30th. You can find more information about it on our website or Facebook page, karama.org/gala. You can also email directly. I think pretty much everyone in here has my email at this point. But in case you don't, we have a table set up outside as well. It's been my incredible blessing and pleasure to see the passion and the drive in this community, which follows Sunnat Ibrahim, alayhi salam, which ensures that no people are divided amongst themselves, but that we are all looking toward with one eye and one light and one vision, how we can become better Muslims each day. And it is my sincere pleasure to be a part of this community day in and day out, and inshallah, into the future and into tomorrow. Brother and sister, before I close with dua, we have a few dua requests I want to read off. We have Diba Tariq's uncle Khwaja Nasim Ullah, who passed away in India on the 3rd. He was old and been ailing from health for a month. Please make dua for his maghfirah. Jazakallah khair. Sister Amina and her daughter are going through a very tough time with his daughter, and with their daughter, and they need your prayers for tasir al-lamir wa tasir al-amura wa shifa wa jazakallah khair kull akhwati fi Islam. Khalid Hamid was our uncle, the elder brother of Sister Ifat Hussain and brother Ashar Hamid, both longtime members of the community who passed away in Pakistan due to COVID 1 year ago. He was exceptionally generous, a caring, and capable person who helped everyone he possibly could. Please, Allah bless him as memory. And also all community members to do dua for Shazi Qureshi's father, Muhammad Qureshi, who's going through a cancer treatment today. May Allah give him speedy recovery to come out of this most difficult time. Ya Allah, we ask for your blessing upon all who are sick, all who are grieving, all who are mourning. We ask for your acceptance of those who have passed within the deen into the highest levels of Jannah, that you may read the book of their good deeds loudly, and that their good deeds may be recited loudly, may be a benefit and a barakah for them in the grave. Ya Allah, we ask for the uplifting of those who uphold Sunnat Ibrahim alayhi salam, that you grant us the strength, the courage, the moral certitude to be guided clearly each day, to cast aside the idols of our own making and the idols that we find around which we find ourselves, and instead direct each of our actions, our words on our lips, and the ideas of our heart toward how we can become better Muslims each day, how we can better serve you and your ummah each day, and how we can better cleanse our hearts of all impurities and all idols. Ya Allah, we ask you to bless the young people and the youth in our community, the next generation, Without their presence, these masajid walls are better left empty. Ya Allah, we ask that you may uplift them, that you may strengthen them, that you may bring them into life as beautiful Muslims both today and tomorrow, our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, who may inshallah be sadaqah jariyah for us down the line as well. Ya Allah, we ask that each person here may be blessed in terms of a cleansing and a purification of their heart. Ya Allah, we ask that each of our institutions, such as this masjid, may grow stronger each day. And Ya Allah, we ask for strength to carry forth these difficult struggles wherever we may find them through today and the days ahead. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
And brothers and sisters, after the salah, please hang around for a moment. There will be a few announcements made over a microphone. So if you can just, before your salah to sunnah, just wait for 2 minutes for those announcements, please. Jazakumullah khair. Allahu Akbar.